Hello and welcome back to HTF Bets. My name is Andrew Gregg, and we have an exciting show for you today where we'll be going over our NBA preseason award predictions as well as some adjustments we have, highlighting some of our fantasy standouts and going over the worst beats in the last 2 weeks as well as our best bets for tonight. So don't go anywhere because HTF Bets starts right now. And welcome back. We are here with obviously Diego to my left as always and Tyler Brownrigg to my right. A lot of refreshing faces. And then over on the stools, we have Augie Aronson and Jan. How are you guys today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Augie?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on.
And let's just get straight into it. As we said it in the open, we have a couple of preseason awards predictions that we made, and then maybe some adjustments besides one person on the show who is sticking with his pick because of how good it was. But I'd like to start with the MVP discussion. The MVP of the league, widely known as the award that stands out as maybe the best player that season. And originally going into the season, I had Luka at plus 370 last semester. And for good reason. Luka averaged 33.9 points last season, along with 9.8 rebounds and 9.2 assists. One of the best statistical seasons we've ever seen by a point guard / small forward. And just in general, just one of the best statistical seasons I've ever seen personally, averaging almost 34 points, leading a 5th seed to the finals. I thought he'd take some of that momentum into this next season. And unfortunately, he hasn't that much. Obviously, before he got injured for the last month, he was playing spectacular as he always does, but not as good of a statistical season as you're used to seeing from Luka. He averaged under 30 points for the first time in 3 seasons, didn't have as many rebounds or assists as we're accustomed to him seeing. And part of that is he's sacrificing for team success. He's dishing out the ball a little bit more. He's the team had more wins to that point than when he got injured last season. But this season, obviously, he has been injured, and he wasn't going to win the award because of this guy who I'm going to mention. SGA, he's currently sitting at minus 290, so if you want to throw a couple dollars at it, it's almost a lock at this point. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be your MVP for the 2024-2025 season for a variety of different reasons. He has the Oklahoma City Thunder sitting at the #1 seed in the Western Conference, as well as the #1 seed overall in basketball. He's averaging over 30 points a game, as well as 5 rebounds and 6 assists per game, and he is averaging 2 steals to go along with a block per game as a point guard. One of just across the board, leading statistical categories. He leads his team in 5 out of the 6 major statistical categories. Just one of the best players in the NBA. And obviously, we mentioned the record. It goes into a huge part of if you're going to win the MVP, how much impact you have on your team. And it's clear that SJ has a huge impact on his team, as his team has the best record in all of the NBA. So moving on, Tyler, obviously, you had most improved last season, and you took Jalen Johnson. How is that working out for you?
Jalen Johnson, all right, the most improved player award is really bad in how they award it to players in the NBA right now. Jalen Johnson is definitely deserving of it. He's averaging over 18 points a game and is just having a great individual season with the Hawks. But the current favorite is Cade Cunningham at minus 150. But I'll touch on Cade Cunningham right now. I will, though, be changing my pick to a guy who I think is absolutely deserving of it, and that is Los Angeles Clippers guard Norman Powell. Norman Powell has been outstanding for the Clippers. Ever since Paul George left, he is the one who has stepped up and answered the call. He's averaging a career-high 23.9 points per game, topping that off with a 49% field goal percentage and shooting 43% from 3. He is a dynamic shooter, great scorer, okay passer, averaging around 3.5 rebounds and 2.2 assists per game. But Norman Powell is absolutely deserving of this award. All right, Cade Cunningham, who is the favorite at minus 150, doesn't deserve it. You want to know why? Because he didn't improve from last year. This year, he was already an all-star caliber player last year. He's doing the same thing. The Pistons don't just don't suck now. So it's really dumb how they do this. Wemby is also on this leaderboard. He's around 3rd or 4th, but it's like, no, this is not what most improved means. This is a guy like Norman Powell, who is for the longest time just a really good role player at best. And now he is an elite starter for this Clippers team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I would personally take Norman Powell to be my most improved player. He is like you mentioned, he's averaging 5 more points than he's ever done in his career. He's just one of those players that, looking at this Clippers roster, you wondered who was going to step up. Obviously, Paul George leaves. Kawhi Leonard, you can never count on him to be healthy, and he hasn't played that many games this season. And Norman Powell has had an almost all-star caliber season. Obviously, you mentioned more than 20 points per game, just keeping this Clippers team afloat, where they're the 6th team in the West. And if you told me that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were both not going to play, you just expect them not expect them to be the 6th seed. But then moving on, obviously, Augie, we mentioned in the preview that there was one person who didn't change their pick. What is that pick?
Yeah, and Tyler just mentioned my guy, and it wasn't with my pick. It's Victor Wembanyama for Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, it was the smart pick, but it was the pick that needed to be made. He should have won it last year. Instead, they gave it to Rudy Gobert. Who knows why they did that? But Wembanyama's he's averaging 4 blocks a game. He has 62 more total blocks than the guy in second place, who's Anthony Davis. He's got 150 total blocks in 38 games. He's having a ridiculous season. He's averaging over a steal a game. And now, when you first took that, it started at minus 180. Now it's over 900, minus 900. So if you took it then, you probably got a pretty good cash out option sitting in your DraftKings right now. So it might not have been the most risky play, but it was a smart play because it's going to win you your money as long as he plays all the games required and stays healthy.
100%. You look at Wemby, obviously he's not missing that many games. He's one of the younger players in the NBA. Obviously, he was a rookie last season. And just looking at Wemby, 7'4", 7'5", some people have him listed at. You can't really see a world where other people are taking this award away from him. He's going to go on like a Rudy Gobert-esque run where he's going to win a bunch of Defensive Player of the Year awards within a short amount of time. And then, Jan, obviously you had 6th Man of the Year. Who was your original pick, and then what did you change it to?
Well, originally I had Malik Monk. Last year he was 2nd place for 6th Man of the Year. And this year he's been having a good season, 18 points, 3 rebounds, over 5 assists. But Sacramento is just not winning basketball games, and that, goes into voting, sadly. But who has been winning? Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard is sitting right now at a minus 208. He's improved all across the board. His three-point shooting has gone up. His field goal shooting has gone up overall. He's raised his points, kind of stayed the same in assists and rebounds, but you see it when he plays. He's more aggressive on the ball, especially on ISOs. He does a lot of pick and pops, moves around a lot, having defenses have to switch on him and have to always pay attention to him. If you see him on the court, he's definitely leading the second unit. When Boston's, all-star starters have to sit down for whatever amount of minutes in the game, he comes in and he steps up every single time. So that's going to be my pick for who the 6th Man of the Year should be.
Absolutely insane just how far Peyton Pritchard has come. I remember when he was just that guy at the end of the regular season that you'd always see like these insane stat lines. It'd be like, Peyton Pritchard had a triple-double. And I'm like, who is this guy? And then he went from shooting half courts in the playoffs, and now he's great. I don't get what happened between now and like 7 months ago, but apparently he's just great at basketball now. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because Boston deserves everything.
Apparently, obviously as a Heat fan, I'm not too keen on the fact that Peyton Pritchard has made another step forward and averaging again more than 5 points than his career high, and then Peyton Pritchard is just taking another step up, which you hate to see. But then moving on, Diego, you've inherited maybe a little bit of a lackluster pick in Montes Buzelis last time as Nick's pick. Who's your actual pick for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly touch on Montes Buzelis. I don't think it's that as bad as a pick as everybody else in the studio thinks, but it wasn't a great pick either by any means. He had a great summer league, but if you look at the guys who are in the league right now, the rookies, I think there were a lot of better options, and my pick to win Rookie of the Year this year is going to be Stephon Castle. He's a guy that the Spurs needed. I mean, he could be the true franchise guard, somebody who plays at their own pace, doesn't really force anything. He gets his teammates involved, sitting at 11.7 points per game this year, 3.6 assists, and just under 1 steal a game. He's somebody that looks for his teammates. The Spurs have a lot of shooters, so he has a lot of options to pass it to. He's playing alongside Chris Paul, a veteran point guard who's had a lot of success in the NBA. I think Stephon Castle has a really good future, and I think as long as he gets Wemby involved and gets his shooters like Champagnie and Harrison Barnes, I think the Spurs team has a lot to look forward to with him and his development.
Yeah, I will just say, as a Heat fan, I want to push back a little bit on Khalil Ware. He's starting for the Heat today, and the last couple of games he's been starting, and he's just been a dominant force. He is averaging over 16 points and 10 rebounds for the last 3 games that he started. So I think that he has a good shot, and like obviously DraftKings does as well. He's currently sitting at plus 200, just in front of Stephon Castle. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have to talk about midseason awards. Hopefully, our changes will be a lot more accurate than our original picks. And coming up after this, we're going to preview some of the fantasy standouts for the season.
Our amazing shows. I'm Nick Cohen, host of season 20 of Hitting the Field, and let me tell you about those amazing shows. On behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we offer here at the network. Mondays at 4, HTF Bets goes live for season 10 with 3 gamblers that, although it may not always seem like it, are here to help us all earn a little bit of extra money while we watch sports. Diego Ortiz, Tyler Brownrigg, and Andrew Gregg's ball knowledge and fun personalities make this show a fan favorite. On Tuesdays, you all loved it, so we brought it back for season 2. It's Girls Got Game, hosted by Frankie Noble, a show blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next is everyone's favorite sports podcast, The Combine, hosted by who other than Ty Patton, an easygoing, conversational, and technical podcast dropping Wednesdays, also on Spotify at The Combine. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for the network's main show, season 20 of Hitting the Field, hosted by me. Here, we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure. We love some football, basketball, hockey, F1. We also cover baseball, soccer, and we even have to show the UFC love sometimes. Penultimately, TGIF, because Friday is nighttime, hosted by Kathleen Moore and Matthew Bracker. Season 8 of Nighttime is where you'll turn to for all things March Madness, UCF sports, and other collegiate events. We're ending with something brand new. HTFN has never had 6 shows running at once. Also filmed in our new podcast studio is HTFC, hosted by Edgar Rodriguez and Patrick De Leon. Football, or soccer in America, is the most popular sport in the world. Across multiple leagues and cups, soccer is a year-round sport, and HTFC is your news source to stay updated. Also on Spotify, by the way, at HTFC. Outside of our 6-show roster, be sure to tune in to our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog, run by our vlog squad of Brianna St. Jean, Michaela Croker, Ashley Rowe, and Ben Huber. Make sure to follow us on our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and X to stay updated on all HTFN news. Remember to subscribe right here on YouTube, leave a like and comment, and with that, I think we're ready for your next segment. I'm Nick Cohen. Thank you for your continued support, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And we are back. Joining me to my left is a new face on HTF Bets. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's amazing to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm excited to hear about Diego's fantasy standouts. But before that, we just got word in studio that Jimmy Butler, who has not been a fantasy standout by any means, has just been suspended indefinitely from the Miami Heat because of walking out of one of the team practices. So obviously there have been a lot of issues this season with Jimmy Butler's play on the court and then his antics off the court, and certainly won't be on this list for fantasy standouts. But given that, Diego, what are our fantasy standouts for this season?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So for my fantasy standouts, we're going to start with Tyrese Halliburton, who's right now 12th in total points for fantasy and in the NBA, and then 4th among guards. He's kind of had an up and down year, obviously, you know, with the injuries and stuff, but he still managed to have huge games where he's been able to score at least 20 point per game, you know, or 20 point double doubles, you know, where he'll go off for maybe even like 40 points and like 15 assists. And if he was more consistent, he you know, obviously probably would be the top guard in fantasy basketball. Halliburton, you know, and the Pacers obviously are, you know, winning games. But as long as they can stay healthy, they stay consistent, they'll probably be one of the better teams. And Halliburton's obviously had, you know, a solid year, but he could be a lot better because I feel like a lot of the Pacers' success really kind of just depends on him and his health. And then when you're looking at Harden, James Harden, he's right now 8th among guards in fantasy points scored. He's having a pretty solid year, obviously averaging over 20 points a game, 8 assists, and a little over steal a game as well. Kind of similar to Halliburton, where he's had these huge double-double games, and he'll get like a cheap steal every game just because he's one of those savvy defenders, you know, veterans in the NBA. And yeah, Harden's just having a pretty good year, obviously, you know, averaging 42 fantasy points per game as well. So he's definitely one guy that's really stood out to me. And then looking at, obviously, LeBron James, who's 9th in total points, 1st in points among small forwards. He is still a top-tier NBA player at age 40, currently averaging 23.7 points per game, 9 assists, 7.6 rebounds. He still fills up the stat sheet at age 40, makes great plays for himself and for his teammates. A competent shot blocker still. He can still get up there with the best of them, faster than a lot of players. So he'll be able to steal the ball, kind of just do everything on the court still. It's unbelievable how LeBron has still managed to just not slow down at all. And obviously for fantasy, still a very viable option and the best small forward in fantasy for the NBA. And then obviously for my next player, Evan Mobley, 7th among points for power forwards, averaging 18 points per game, 8 rebounds, and over a block. He just continues to get better the more he plays, still plays with a really strong style, really gets big in the paint. He's capable of having huge double-double games as well, kind of similar to all these guys, really, just a stat sheet stuffer. He has games where he can maybe even go for like 30 points, 10 to 15 rebounds. He's been missing games recently due to an injury, but overall, just a pretty durable player too. I had him in fantasy basketball last year, just a really good option to have for sure. And then for my last player is Pascal Siakam, 4th in points among power forwards this year. He's scoring over 20 points per game this year. He's a second option on the Pacers. Kind of with Halliburton's injury history, he'll be a guy that will obviously, be the first option. Still a solid rebounder, scores at a high level, can have games where he can go for like 30 or maybe even 40 points. He's also capable of having these huge triple-double games. So yeah, Pascal Siakam, and then he's averaging obviously 38.6 fantasy points per game. So yeah, he's one that kind of stood out to me. He's also been in the league for a while, hasn't really, slowed down either. But yeah, I'll go back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, 100%. I really appreciate all the list of fantasy standouts. And I just want to ask you guys, is there anybody that particularly stands out to you, Tyler?
I would say Evan Mobley stands out to me. I have him on my fantasy team, and just him and the Cavs in general have been outstanding this year. Now, obviously, he's had the injury concerns, but this is a guy I was able to draft Evan Mobley in the 4th round of the fantasy draft, and having a guy like him who's arguably who is top 10 in his position has just been invaluable. Obviously, you'd like for him to be more healthy lately this stretch and reach that peak of his performance like he was doing back in November. He's had a bit of a dip since then, but overall, he's been great.
No, 100%. Just the Cavs in general have been a little bit of a shock this season, given the fact that they are the #1 seed in the East. Everyone kind of assumed that the Celtics would retain their dominance, but he's been a huge part of that success, and you see that especially because of the fact that he's missed 4 of the last 5 games, and they've lost 3 of those games. So in the times that he's not there, they obviously regress a little bit. And then, did you want to highlight anybody?
I just want to continue on Evan Mobley. He's been up lately on his 3-point percentages and his attempts. He's taken 2 more attempts on his 3-point shots, and it's just an outstanding job by him keeping his offensive game up and being a defensive staple that he is. You can't really get a better power forward than him. He's just going to be a future superstar for sure. But there is one guy that is not on this list that deserves it 100%, and he's battling LeBron for that #1 small forward spot in fantasy, and that's Josh Hart. Josh Hart, he said at the beginning of this year that he wasn't sure how he was going to fit into this offense. He was quoted him, he wasn't sure, and then absolutely blew everyone away. He's been averaging 14, 10, and 6 for the season. And his last game he had versus Sacramento, he did 20, 18, and 11 assists with 1 steal and 2 blocks. He's picked up the spot, and it's been amazing, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with everything you said. And just a personal, maybe just personal thing, LeBron James being on this list always puts a smile on my face. Obviously,
he's 40 years old doing this.
He is 40 years old doing this. You love to see it. Unless you're like a super LeBron hater, everybody kind of enjoys seeing somebody who's 40 years old being able to play basketball at such a high level. He came into this league 23 years ago, and he's still acting like he owns it. Obviously, he's averaging 23 points a game, which is a career low for him. And just across statistically, he's gotten a little bit lower. But for fantasy owners, they don't really care. He's the #1 small forward right now, which What can you say about that? He's played 40 of the Lakers' 45 games this season in a league where you're starting to load manage, and you're even getting in CBA agreements. They're putting caps on the fact that people are sitting out so much. LeBron James has taken that to heart as maybe one of those people who used to load manage a little bit, and is now not missing any games. Halfway through the season, he's only missed 5, which is significantly less than a lot of people that are significantly younger. Almost everyone's significantly younger than him at this point. And then another player that has barely missed at any time, and by barely, I mean none at all. We're looking at Pascal Siakam, who is in the top 5 for for power forwards as Diego mentioned, but he's in the top 5 not because his average is super high. He's only averaging 38.6 fantasy points a game, but he's in the top 5 because he hasn't missed a game all season. In the NBA, availability is the best ability, and he's helping the Pacers stay afloat in a team that isn't completely well-rounded, but Tyree, you can assume that Pascal Siakam is going to be there night in and night out, and that's exactly what you need. 43 out of 43 games. You just don't see stats like this unless it's the Knicks players. So obviously the Indiana Pacers have got a good one in Pascal Siakam who they traded for last year.
Mm-hmm. And to touch on, we were talking about LeBron, he's still doing this. James Harden is also still doing this somehow. When we first came to the Clippers, there was a lot of speculation of, are we going to see the James Harden of old? Is he going to be back to what he was in Houston? Now, obviously, he isn't that, but he has been outstanding as a facilitator. It is like he has taken another level, averaging over 10 assists per game, top it off with 24 points. He has been now that kind of the anchor and the engine of this entire Clippers team. Absolutely outstanding performance for him to see a guy like him just come back. Obviously, I think Paul George leaving is a big part of that. And also the continued success of James Harden and his great facilitating, I think, has led to guys like Norman Powell, who we mentioned last segment, to also take that next step.
Yeah, no, and like you just said, we mentioned Norman Powell last segment, but James Harden deserves a lot of credit for the fact that this Sixers team is staying where they are with a top 6 seed and staying out of that plan where you really don't want to be in a situation where you can get bounced out of the playoffs if you just lose 2 games back to back. So staying out of that position is obviously ideal, and he's kept them to a point where they haven't had to be in it, even without Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, not significant parts of this team. Obviously, Paul George left, Kawhi Leonard been injured, so James Harden taking another step forward in the right direction, which you love to see because of the fact that James Harden isn't exactly a young player either. He was playing against LeBron when he was on the Heat back 13 years ago. So
Putting up a challenge, man.
James Harden being able to facilitate for the Clippers has been ideal for them. And any last words?
I mean, really, it's crazy. He's also one of those players that's aged, but he still played 72 games last season. And we were looking at this season, he's playing 42 of 45 games, and that's pretty impressive, keeping that he's had higher usage without Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, his younger guys on his team keep him, when he needs rest, they can pick up, but he is really leading that team impressively.
No, 100%. And right after this, we have a fan favorite, it feels like. After this, for segment 3, we'll be going over our bad beats and best bets.
Never got me anything for my birthday.
I don't even know what that is. I thought birthdays were every 100 years like the Kids' Choice Awards.
What?
Finally, he's here, man. He's always late.
Who?
Marcus?
You good?
I'd give them one of these, and one of these.
Behind every on-screen moment is a whole team of engineers and technologists.
And you can be a part of such a team through SMPTE at UCF. You'll join a team of students just like you who are ready to innovate the future of TV and film.
With SMPTE at UCF, you'll be able to connect with local industry pros, learn about new technology in the industry, as well as get backstage experience that really matters. Join SMPTE for a backstage pass to all of this.
We meet every last Monday of the month for our general body meetings. There we discuss how new technology is being used to create new media, and we get to highlight local professionals and their specialties.
On top of that, we have some site visits planned, so tune into our social media to be notified of when those will happen.
So if you're ready to pull back the curtain and find out what really happens behind the scenes, join SMPTE at UCF.
Over the past 2 weeks, we've seen some of the craziest bad beats, possibly in betting history, and of course, we had to cover them here on HTF Bets. Diego, start us off.
Yeah, so here we start with the Texans at the Chiefs in the wild card with the line at Chiefs -9.5 in the fourth quarter with the pocket collapsing. Mahomes throws a strike to Travis Kelce while being brought down and nearly parallel to the ground. Next possession, Stroud and the Texans look for an answer, but on third down, nobody gets open and it leads to a Texans punt after an incompletion, just trying to throw a Nico Collins way there. The Chiefs now in field goal range, and Kareem Hunt will try to break a big run here to bring them inside the 20.
Shades of Zeke here with the celebration. Let him eat.
And then right here, the Chiefs, then they get stopped, and then they elect to kick a field goal to bring them up 23-12. The 9.5 bet looks almost secure at this point, but then Stroud and the Texans driving down the field with over 2 minutes left, and Stroud throws a Nico Collins way, and he somehow comes up down with it.
An absolutely insane grab by Nico Collins on the sideline. I remember watching that live.
Yeah. Now the Texans are in field goal range, and then the pocket collapse again for Stroud, so the Texans will kick a field goal, but it will get blocked.
My goodness.
Houston bettors are in shambles right now.
Houston still down 11 with almost no chance to get this ball back, and then the Texans were able to get a stop with the clock at 15 seconds, but Matt Ariza to run the clock out.
You didn't need to do this. But anyway, now we move on to the world of college basketball. ECU taking on North Texas. RJ Felton opens up with a big three. And now Jordan Riley with the steal to keep the foot on the gas and brings it all the way to the hoop. ECU still going to be looking to keep running up the score here early on in this game. Jay-Sean Woodward's going to be missing an open three. But then Jordan Riley, once again, he's going to be coming out of nowhere. Just like Jose Alvarado is going to take it all the way to the hoop. Slams it home, and now we skip to second half action, and North Texas has made it a 1-point game, but RJ Felton is still here. Buries another three. But don't worry, North Texas has a savior of their own, and his name is Atten Wright. But it won't be starting in this moment as he misses that three. He gets it, though he'll get his second chance once again. Bang! The first three of many. And now Atten Wright once again in the corner. Heavy contested shot, puts it up. Nothing but net again as Atten Wright goes. And now a layup to try and secure the dub, but oh no, the loose ball. Who's there to pick it up? No other but Atten Wright for the third time, burying it and ending this game. And we are safely within the under as time expires as RJ Felton heaves it up. But wait, it went in and time was still on the clock. This counts. This game officially hits the over at 129.
No way. We move into the Arkansas-Georgia game where the Razorbacks are favored by 2.5 at home, and Adu Thero follows it up for a pick-back slam. On the other end, a wild shot doesn't go, and DJ Wagner hits his best Tom Brady impersonation with a perfect pass 80 feet down the court for a Thero layup. 4 seconds left on the clock, and 7-2 apparent sharpshooter Ivisic drains it for Arkansas to send us to the half. First three of the game. Come back outside of half. Arkansas feeling hot, as at least relatively. John O. Davis drains the three, their second of the game. After going down early, Arkansas bettors have life, only down 4. Wait, make that 1 as Carter Knox gets the tough layup to go and 1. This is where the madness really starts for bettors as Bulldogs turnover leads to head coach Mike White jumping out of his shoes, and on the other end, a beautiful hop step puts the Razorbacks up by 2 with 30 seconds left to go. After a wild couple of possessions, Adu Thero goes to the line for 2, where he make the first but miss the second front iron. But rule number 1 on free throws, box out the shooter. He gets it, and the Arkansas Razorbacks secure -2.5 on the last second shot. Can you believe that? Do you believe?
That's unreal.
Insane sequence of events for all three of these games, really.
Yeah, no. I mean, between Matt Ariza running out of the back of the end zone, didn't need to do that, could have just punted the ball. Between the last second half-court buzzer beater.
Didn't need to do that either.
Didn't need to do that.
Just why?
Under bettors are crying right now, and then Arkansas -2.5. You don't box out the shooter? It was a 4-on-1.
That's fundamental basketball.
Fundamental basketball, which they're not teaching at Georgia University.
Aren't. Shout out Coach K winning at his alma mater, though.
But now we move into our best bets, which hopefully that won't happen to any of us. I'm going to start off here with the Timberwolves -9.5 in the contest today against the Hawks. So for a variety of reasons, Trae Young is out, and then, as you mentioned, your former most improved player, Jalen Johnson, is also going to be out for this game. I just think the Timberwolves are a better team anyway, but given the fact that their 2 leading scorers are going to be out for this game, I don't see how there's any way the Hawks cover this. I just can't see it.
They're just not a competitive enough team. Yes, the Timberwolves have been struggling this season, obviously, but the Hawks are just not. They're just not healthy. They don't have their star players. They just can't do it.
100%. And then, Diego, your best bet?
Yeah, so for my best bet, I'm looking at the Lakers at Hornets tonight. And then I got the Lakers at -5.5. I think the Lakers are playing pretty solid basketball as of late. They're winners of 3 straight. Meanwhile, the Hornets are obviously struggling. They can't consistently string together wins. I think they only have like 12 wins this year. The Lakers, obviously with LeBron, he's playing pretty well. Really, the whole team's playing pretty solid. I think Anthony Davis is starting to find a rhythm too. So I like the Lakers at -5.5 on the road against a pretty bad team.
When you're looking at the lines here, I'm like, wait, the Hornets are terrible at basketball. Like, I don't understand how it's only a 5.5 spread.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just me, but I was looking through the lines last night. I'm like, Lakers -5.5. Are they missing somebody? No, people are healthy. I don't see what maybe
Brandon
Vegas.
Miller's out for the Hornets.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
so key players on the Hornets are out. I personally love that bet. Slam Lakers -5.5 in my opinion. And then Tyler.
Moving in, I'm not going to be picking a game specifically. I'm going to be taking the over for RJ Barrett's points in the Pelicans-Raptors contest tonight. Over is at 22.5 is the line. RJ Barrett averages 22 points per game. He can get one more point, all right? He has been the sole bright spot on what has been an absolutely garbage Raptors team. They're terrible. So this guy, he gets the ball often and puts up plenty of shots. 23 points, I expect there's no way he doesn't hit that. It was just 1 point over his average, like, come on.
And I think I remember you taking them also in the mock show. So
Yes, in the mock show when we did Surefire Pick of the Week, I talked about RJ Barrett, and that did hit. Unfortunately, it doesn't count.
Big RJ Barrett fan here. And then finally, Diego, you were the only one of us, sadly, to hit last week. How do you feel? What anything to gloat over? Obviously, we're 0-1. You're 1-0. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, look, one, I just know ball. Two, that was a pretty easy, I mean, that was a lock. I mean, the Pistons were playing pretty good basketball. They still are. And then against, the Knicks, who are a pretty good team, I liked my chances. So
yeah, that was a lock, and so will our bets be next week, where obviously another episode of HTF Bets will be here live at 4 p.m. We look to see you there. Until next time.